Thank you, Brother Tom. Always appreciate that lively style that he uses in leading our singing. It gets us awake and keeps us awake, at least until the preacher gets up here. He's not responsible after that, are you? We're glad you're here tonight. Thanks each one of you for coming, young people. We're happy you've had a good afternoon together. I hear that was good and fun, and it's just great to be able to resume those kinds of things, and you'd enjoy them and stay well and healthy, and we're just glad that we can be back. Some churches still are not gathering, particularly on Sunday nights and other times yet, but some are not meeting at all yet, and they are still just watching online. And we welcome the people who watch us online. We're always happy to have you. Thank you for the encouraging comments that you make later, and we appreciate that as well. But we're just glad that we're able to be together. We continue to celebrate. I think it's appropriate for us to celebrate it, but not for us to assume it whatsoever. But we celebrate that we have not had a case of COVID in our membership yet, at least not that's been reported to us, and that's a fabulous record. It indicates that people are, all of you, are taking all the precautions apparently that you can wherever you are, including being here. And that's what we want for everybody, to be safe and to be well. And it's not something that somebody deserves or earns or anything, because none of us know when we are being exposed. And so we're just thanking God that it is like it is. The lesson I have in mind tonight starts at a place that might not be of great concern to each one of you, but hopefully I can move into some areas that is a launch pad that will bring us to, and we'll try that. I want us to use a scripture to begin with this morning, afternoon, evening, I got it, and if you'd like to open your Bibles to the 41st chapter of the book of Isaiah. That's where we're going to be in the beginning. It's just a series of passages here, or verses, that kind of encapsulate the concept that I want us to gain from what we study together tonight. And I had a whole lot of passages, more than you would want me to use in one sermon, but this one has a packaging kind of about it. So let's read, beginning in verse 10. The Lord says, "Fear not, for I'm with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Now, if God didn't have any more reassurance than in just that one verse, it looks like that would satisfy. It's strengthening, it's faith building, it's reminding, it's confidence giving in every way, to realize that God is saying, I don't want you to fear. You may be in fearful times, you may be in strange, uncertain circumstances, you may be facing things you haven't faced before, but I don't want you to fear, for I am with you. I got your back, we would say today, that God is saying. And I will strengthen you with my righteous right hand. Wow. God's promising that to his children. He goes on to say in verse 11 and following, "Behold, all who incensed against you shall be put to shame and confounded. And those who strive against you shall be as nothing and shall perish. You shall seek those who contend with you, but you will not find them. Those who war against you shall be as nothing at all. For I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand, and it is I who say to you, fear not, I am the one who helps you." Is that not a great promise? Is it not strengthening and encouraging in so many ways that know that God is saying, I'm right here in the darkness? Whenever a child cries out, Mama, Mama, and mother says, I'm right here, it just causes the peace to flow and everything's okay. God is saying, I'm right here. Now, not everybody would sense what I'm about to say, but Sundays, the Lord's Day, the day when we meet, the day when we sing and praise God, and when those of us who preach have the opportunity to address the congregation, those days are hard days for preachers. Now, you may say, well, I don't understand how that would be a hard day for a preacher. He's about preaching. It's the day that he gets the opportunity to get up and to report what he's studied, what he's learned, what he wants to share with the congregation to help them to grow, to build up the body of Jesus Christ. It's some people say it's the one day a week that he does work. Well, he should enjoy that. But Sundays are hard for preachers. There's a group called the Jenkins Institute. There's two brothers that put that together, and it's largely an online blog and series of surveys and those kinds of things, but articles that are encouraging. And several hundred preachers subscribe to that, and they watch it and learn from it. Even preaching jobs are sometimes advertised there. And almost every Monday, there's an article that's written to the preachers who join with the Jenkins Institute on that day that either is entitled or points to the encouragement, don't quit on Monday. That's their theme on Monday, don't quit on Monday. And the reason they do that is that Monday is the day when they come off of that other day. And you see, when a preacher stands up to preach, it's not the same every place. Sometimes when he stands up to preach, he's entirely prepared to deliver the sermon that he has in mind, but then he's distracted. He's distracted some by the fact that some people are missing. That there are empty places in the congregation, maybe more in these days than before COVID. And there's that gap and that absence all the way up that side. And he thinks of the people who used to sit there, who would be there, and remembers them being there, but they're not. He looks to one side and he may see a family, a couple, they're seated together, but he knows that their marriage is in serious danger. They've been confiding in him and asking him for help. And he's been trying to help, but he doesn't know if they're going to make it. He looks to another part in the congregation and he sees a family that just lost perhaps a child to an accident, or a couple and her mother just died, and someone who just lost their job, and someone who went bankrupt, and someone who got evicted, and somebody who's afraid that bankruptcy is coming to them. And he knows the people, and he feels the anguish that they may be experiencing, and he knows they've come today hoping that I can give them something, that I can share with each one of them and all the different kinds of circumstances that are in their life. They're looking to me to fill for them somehow the vacuum of lostness and hurt and pain and uncertainty, and it's overpowering, particularly to younger men with less experience. My opinion is that only the people who are most inadequate don't feel inadequate when they stand in this pulpit or any pulpit and address God's people to try to help them. The deeper the grief, the more uncertain the times and circumstances, the greater the responsibility is felt. They point out in some of those articles that some of those men have been with families through all kinds of hurtful things, even in the past week. And now they're standing there preaching while doing their best, realizing that in the congregation there's someone or more people who are trying to get their job. They're wanting him to have to leave. They're wanting him to have to quit, go somewhere else. They're wanting the elders to fire him if he doesn't. And he knows, I'm doing the best I can, and I'm trying, and I can't seem to satisfy. When Monday comes, he's exhausted. The most discouraged, perhaps, he will be all week, is coming off of the greatest day that could have been. And no wonder he needs to be urged, don't quit on Monday. Don't quit on the day when all this is on your back. Wait. Think about it. Well, while I know that applies to preaching, brethren, I have to know that it also applies. We're not the only one in the game of life. That there are a lot of other people out there who, some of whom just live for Friday. That's where TGIF came from, isn't it? They're in jobs that are boring and hurtful, and they're living in jobs where they're with people who are unkind, inconsiderate, belligerent, abusive, all kinds of circumstances, and they feel like, I have to go, I've got to put in my years, I got to hang on. And if there's anybody that needs that encouragement, don't quit on Monday. It may be somebody in the pew that's listening to the preacher, not the preacher. For us all to realize that there are tough times sometimes, but that we are never alone. So don't quit on Monday. Don't quit when you're down. Don't give up when things are hard. Don't decide that I just can't go on. There will be, after COVID, in my own opinion, there will be lots of changes and lots of pulpits, and there will be changes in leadership in churches, and there will be people who will leave one church and go to another looking for the happy place, where it's all right, and where there wasn't any damage and there wasn't any hurt, and everybody stayed totally in love and in peace with each other. There'll be happy hunting ground situations looking for those things. But don't quit on Monday. Don't give up in the hard times. The time that everybody needs to stay closest to God and closest to each other, to dig in and find a way to hang on, is when we are needing help and encouragement to the greatest degree. That's when we need each other the most. That's when we can help and furnish help to each other the very most. I encourage that in those moments, whenever we are feeling depressed and disillusioned by whatever is happening around us, and our family, our job, our community, our environment, those kinds of things, that we back off a bit. Don't walk away, back off just enough to be able to get a better perspective. Look at that picture. I've been in some circumstances, and I've left some circumstances that I got to the point that I was so focused on the negative of it all that I couldn't see any good in it, and I walked away. And after some time, I looked back over my shoulder, and I realized some of that problem was you, not them. And you got so negative and you got so focused on the things that were hurtful and not ideal that you couldn't see the good. Don't walk away. Back off and look at it. And try to pick out the good things that are there and focus on them. That's a good idea. Recognize the fact that there's good in every circumstance. And know that burnout is real. We get tired and burned out. And when we're burned out, we don't think well. We don't think positively. We tend to think negatively. If we can refresh, if we can get back to our faith, if we can resume our strength, if we can realize there is someone who cares. In fact, most everybody cares. There's a passage in Colossians chapter 3, and I'm not going to read it tonight, but let me encourage you, it's chapter 4, I'm sorry. Let me encourage you to read it, to start to get a feel for the interaction that there is among us and God's people, and how many people there are who really do care what happens to you and to me and what's going on in our lives. We are not islands. We are not alone. We never are. And we need to know that. Colossians chapter 4, beginning in verse 7 and going to the end of the chapter through verse 17. The Apostle Paul is writing the church in Colossae, and he's pointing out to them the names of people that they know, that he knows, that he has sent, that are with them, and the people who are asking, and the ones who are telling, and the ones who have reported. And you start to just seeing a plethora of people who are all engaged in a relationship called fellowship, and they support and endorse each other. And these are the people who are there for us. It's not just, and that sounds like I'm minimizing when I say it's not just God, because that's the greatest thing there is and can be. But in addition to having God having promised us, he promised, he was with Abraham. He blessed and promised Joshua, I'll be with you. Never, just do what I say. Keep my commandments and I will be with you. He promised Moses before Joshua, I will be with you and I will guide you. And even in the Great Commission, when Jesus said in Matthew 28 that the disciples should go into all nations and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ, the last words that Matthew recorded from the mouth of Jesus is there in the last verse of the 28th chapter when he said, and I will be with you always, even to the ends of the earth. I'll be there always. You don't have to worry. You'll never be alone. I will accompany you, and I will help you, and I will strengthen you so that you'll be able to go on. So back off, look at it a little differently. Exercise some patience, some time. Do some math and look at what's going to be lost if I do a knee-jerk response here. If I fly off the handle, what am I compromising? What opportunities do I have? I'll tell you something interesting, to me at least, that I've observed through many years of preaching. And that is that quite often, whenever I've worked with a church for several years and frankly had worked closely with some people whom I was trying to convert, worked and worked and worked and couldn't convince them to become Christians, eventually, whenever I announced that I'd decided I'd move on to somewhere else, some of those very people that I couldn't move before would come and say, well, I'd always thought you'd be here to baptize me. Huh? I am here. That's what I've been here for. But they wouldn't move until they heard I was going. And some of the people that I felt never were really involved in being supportive and encouraging would come and say things, and I know talk is cheap, but they'd say, I'd always envisioned that you'd be here to do my funeral. And I'm thinking, I didn't think you liked me. The perspective of our understanding maybe that would cause us all to infer that we ought to talk about that more. We ought to engage in communicating more and better with each other about feelings and encouraging one another. You know, the Hebrew chapter 10, verse 25 urges us to not forsake the assembly, to consider in verse 24 ways whereby we may stir up one another to love and active goodness. I think attending, as is mentioned in verse 25, is one example of that, but that there must be 100 other ways that we also can encourage each other and stir up one another and motivate each other to do good works. And one of them may be saying, I appreciate you. I thank you for what you do, and giving a pat on the back and a support. And we've got some ladies among us that do a wonderful job of writing notes and encouraging people. You go to the mailbox and you find a shot in the arm that comes, and what if a lot of us were doing that for a lot of us? Then how that could grow. So we do the math and the subtracting, and we don't want to lose. We want to have a better situation, so don't fly off the handle and make the mistake of overreacting, what I call knee-jerk responsibility. Spend some time in prayer. Pray about that. Pray about it a lot. Because when we're making these kinds of changes, they often are life-changing circumstances. We're changing who we're going to be with for the rest of our lives, who we're going to touch, who we're going to help, who we're going to encourage. We're really shaping the future in many ways for ourselves, for our families, for the opportunities they're going to have. And again, that's true of preachers, but it's not just true of preachers. It's true of us all. And we look back sometimes and we see in our memory the old friends that we had. When you go away, when you make those changes, that doesn't stay the same. I remember as a young man, I guess it's in the first place that I was away from my mom and dad's home and working full time with a church, I developed some of the dearest friends that I'd ever had, and enjoyed doing things with them. And frankly, this naive young man believed that these people that I'm with right now are going to be my dear close friends for the rest of my life. We won't ever be separated. We'll be supportive of each other as long as we live. But I broke the chain. After a year and a half or so, 2 years, I went somewhere else. I still thought they'd remember me just the same and we'd all be friends, and they didn't and they don't. And some of those that I loved so much eventually got old and they died, and I didn't even know it. I wasn't even informed. Had I stayed there, if I'd been in that relationship longer, all those connections would have been different. I don't know that my going another place was a wrong thing. I'm just saying that when we make these decisions, we need not to, as it were, quit on Monday, because there's a lot at stake, and decision-making needs to involve prayer, consultation with God, consideration for the future, what's lost against what's gained. Spend some time in the Scripture. There are so many passages, and these are the ones that I've actually got about 40 written down here that we could talk about, where the Lord is just again and again reinforcing the very kind of thing that was in Isaiah chapter 41. That I'm here, I'll take care of you, that I will never leave you, you won't be alone, and I will keep you safe until the very end. We need to spend time in the Scripture seeing the kind of experience God has had with people before us and the kind of experience that He promises to have us with us, and He doesn't want us to ever abandon our faith, our brethren, the local church, the Scripture. You know, he doesn't want us to abandon him or right or justice or mercy or all those qualities that he wants in us. Don't quit. Don't quit. My righteous right hand, he said, will get you through all these things. There really is a lot to be said for solidarity, for hanging on, and for patience and endurance. You just have to know that God wants the best for us and has the power to give it. But that when we become discouraged, depressed, full of anxiety, when we are fearful where he's urging us, fear not, when we don't just turn it over to him and trust, we sometimes act in haste without considering what the Word would teach us and what we'd gain through prayer and what we might lose with impatient decisions. Don't quit at the wrong time. That's not saying that we should never move on or do anything different, but be sure that we are mature in the decisions that we make, and that those decisions are based upon wisdom that comes from God, and trust that we're never alone from each other, but most certainly never alone from God. And believe that we shall overcome. And out on the other side, things will be bright and beautiful. And that what happens in this life is not the ultimate thing that matters anyway, because heaven is our home and that's where we're going. And here we're just camping. But God helps us through, and he helps us alone. My right hand, my righteous right hand, he says, will strengthen you. I'm going to quit at this point, and we'll have the invitation. If you're here and you need the prayers of the church for anything, or if you're one who's never obeyed the gospel of Jesus Christ and you're willing to believe and repent, confess your faith in the Lord, and be baptized, we're ready to do that with you, for you tonight, if you'll come while we stand together and sing.